Greetings. This is TimeRider at Chapter 4. I'm sure you noticed I have a new intro. One of my subscribers suggested that I need to pick up the pace a little bit. And as much as I like the slow, lumbering tuba, I decided that they were right and I needed to get from the front to the back of it a little faster. I hope everyone likes it. So what you're looking at today is a sad excuse for a Matchbox 75B that I paid $2.85 for. I have 4 of these, so it's a really good thing that I like the casting. And it isn't just because Steve McQueen owned one, although that contributes to it. It's reminiscent of a time when sports touring cars were all the rage in Europe, and they did a really nice job. So hopefully you'll agree when you see what I've done with this one at the end that I did a really nice job as well. Enjoy. As you can see, this casting had a number of problems, not the least of which is that it didn't have any tires. And somebody had painted the awful green with a crusty green instead, but of course that lovely Lesney trailer hitch had survived. So it was in need of some tender loving care. The Ferrari is a 2-post design. So here I am with what I like to call my big friggin' drill bit. It's 5/16. And you'll notice when I do a lot of this drilling, I kind of roll the drill around a little bit. And why I'm doing that is because that way I don't have to grind the drill bit flat like Marty did, and in order to avoid drilling holes in things. It accomplishes the same thing. Pop out the suspension and pop out the interior with that wonderful Lesney trailer hitch that we all love so much. And here I am, I'm rolling my drill bit around again, and eventually the glass just pops right out. So a couple drops of oil, and I can start drilling out. I have to grab my little dowel so nobody freaks out when I put my hand under it. People have asked, and I use a drill bit called Milwaukee Shockwave, and they're made of titanium. And they have like a ferrule, which I like because it means that I don't have to try to put a really skinny little drill bit into the chuck of my drill. They're fairly large, and so the drill gets a really good grasp, and I have yet to break one of these. I'm really sold on them. I think they work really, really well. Sucking out some shavings there. And now another drop of oil so that I can tap it out. And I do like using the tap even though I'm using a hardened button screw. I just think that tapping the hole, all in all, it just works better. And again, don't be afraid to back it out and clean out the channel and then thread it in again if you feel the tap binding up. That's actually the right way to tap a hole at any rate. And there we go. We're ready for that first button screw. By the way, kudos to those of you who got the Von Teese reference. I don't subscribe to the National Enquirer, so you're not going to find interesting newsprint at the bottom of anything I do. But Von Teese was a burlesque dancer, in other words, a stripper. And one of my subscribers once told me that I have to be careful putting strippers on my desk. So here we go. So once again, no, you're not in the wrong video. I stripped 3 models at the same time, and this one was the last one, but of course my little reefer truck chassis is still sitting there because I pretty much did a one right after another. Ironically, the nasty green paint was also nasty to remove, and I wound up having to use a stripper on it a couple of times in order to get it down to the bare metal. Once I got rid of all that nastiness, or most of it anyway, it was time to clean up the casting. Out comes the wire brush. Nope, it's not brass. I've never had a problem using this brush. I'm going to keep doing it because I think I bought 15 of them from some outfit. Probably enough to last me a lifetime. And they do clean up nice, and boy, they sure work good for getting into the grill details and things of that nature. Of course, now that the casting's clean, I like to do a visual inspection of it and make sure that the doorposts are all straight and nothing's bent. This casting was actually in really good condition considering the gross paint that it had on it. Everything looks straight. So I know in Matchbox Marty's last video he kind of gave me a shout out about this method of removing Matchbox wheels. And I just want to make sure that credit is given where credit is due. This was something that I got from Wheels and Things, if I recall correctly. And, I thank Master Marty for the recognition. Certainly he's the standard by which a lot of us measure our actions. But it wasn't my idea. I'm just copying somebody else. But I guess imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. As a matter of practice, I don't generally do a great deal with the bottom of the Matchbox, the chassis. Sometimes I'll clean them up a little bit, but I kind of think along the same lines as David Hyde, in that it's kind of a reminiscent of the play that the model went through. So there's some patina on the bottom that I don't know, maybe it's important, maybe it's not, but generally speaking I don't do a lot. This one I decided I was going to paint. It was kind of corroded, and for whatever reason I just decided that that's what I was going to do. So I was cleaning up the bottom of it, and I'm hitting the bumpers, of course, to make sure that they get nice and smooth, because this is not a restoration, it's a custom, and I intend to use a chrome pen on them, so that's what I'm doing here. So this is a step that I don't typically show, but it's an important one. And I've vowed that I need to do better at this. So what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning up the casting with mineral spirits. I want to get all the oil from my hands off of it before I start putting paint on it. And as you can see, I'm picking out that last little bits of paint that I'm finding on it. But anyway, there you have it. For those who wonder, yeah, I do clean my castings before I put paint on them. So I decided to paint the chassis black, even though it was bare metal to begin with. So I'm going to lay a coat of primer on it here real quick and get it ready for some paint. I actually had a bunch of black paint left over from the Porsche. So that's what I'm using here. I had a subscriber make a simple comment, and usually I ignore this stuff, but the comment was, talks too much. So I just want to take a minute to remind everybody that if I'm talking too much, there's a volume and you can turn it down. People want to hear me explain what I'm doing. At least that's what I've been told. So if I talk too much, well, I'm sorry. I'm not going to change it. That's just the way it is. I had indicated after I did the Cougar that I wanted to experiment a little more with those clear Tamiya paints. And first step is painting it silver. So this is what it looked like after coat number 1, silver. So I really wanted to dress to impress, so I was going to do this absolutely right. I put on a tack coat of red, and then I literally let it sit for several hours before I put any more paint on it. After the tack coat had dried, I added successively more layers of the clear red. And I think I finally wound up putting about 4 layers of paint on it before it was the red that I was looking for. Because, of course, each layer that I put on, the red got deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's really a beautiful, beautiful color. So, of course, I wanted the model to look special. So what I did was I painted some details on the front and on the rear. Then I used a chrome pen on the grill, followed up by a tire wash to kind of fill in the depressions in the grill structure and give it some contour and some character. And then I gave it, a couple of coats of Tamiya TS13 clear. You can see how deep that red got. I mean, it's really quite a stunning color. So if you recall, the tires were gone, and I actually did not have a set of tires to replace it. So when I ordered those Greenlight tires for the Porsche, it came with 4 sets of tires total. So I decided to use another set of those. Now, the issue with the Greenlights, oh goodness, is that the axle's quite a bit smaller. So what I did was I cut 2 1/16 tubes of steel stock to fit in the axle channels, and then I super glued them using baking soda to create some hardness. And basically what I'm doing is I'm creating an axle channel. There I am test fitting the axle so that I can put the replacement wheels on it. So one of the sets of tires that I got was a little too big. The other set I had plans for another project, and this was the set that I had left. And I wasn't disappointed in this particular set, but they say the shoes make the man. So here's the wheels and tires that I picked for this particular project. So the Ferrari has kind of a cream colored interior, and I found these seats on the internet and thought that they were an interesting muse, and I decided to paint the interior to kind of try to match this. So I like to use flat brown for interiors or flat black because I just think it looks better than the gloss. I'll use gloss if I have to, but as a general rule, I use brown. And yeah, I know that looks crude compared to the photos I just showed, but it's 1/64 scale after all. I can only be so articulate with my paintbrush, and I was actually pretty happy with how it turned out. And then I've looked on the internet, and that rear deck on these cars is typically black. So I decided to paint this one black as well. I had used Easy Off unscented oven cleaner to get the paint off the glass. Then I just scrubbed it really good with soapy water. You can see me picking at a couple of little places where there was still paint. And then I used the Novus product to polish it. I had decided that I was going to try to smoke these windows, and I wasn't really quite sure how I was going to do that yet, or I should say tint them. But I had a couple of ideas that I wanted to try, and I didn't take any footage of it, but I will, because it actually did work out pretty well in the end. So I'll show it to you in another video. So here's all the parts ready to be put back together. Assembly actually, was pretty straightforward and went without a hitch. Getting a little bit of rubberized adhesive here for the top of the windshield, and getting ready to put that into the body. So I won't bore you all with me screwing button screws into the body of this car, and I'll just go back to reminding you, where we started with this really awful green paint, fairly chipped up, no wheels, ugly trailer hitch, bumpers are fairly corroded. The car was a hot mess. There's just no good way to put it. Windows are all scratched up. But anyway, let's take a look at where I wound up. So there you have it. The Matchbox 75B Custom in candy red. This is TimeRider at Chapter 4, and I'll leave the light on for you. Subscribe if you like what you see. Share if you so choose. Take care and be safe.